Prince William forces Camilla to apologize after her attacks on Kate go viral. The morning light crept gently across the high windows of Kensington Palace, casting golden streaks on the wooden floor as Kate stirred a spoon through her tea. She was quiet, but not in the usual way. Her silence now felt heavier, like it had roots. At the kitchen table, George worked on a drawing, oblivious to the storm swelling around them. Louis hummed to himself on the carpet, and Charlotte read from a fairy tale book, occasionally looking up at her mother. But Kate's gaze was somewhere far off. Her smile was there, but it felt paper thin. A week earlier, she had been on top of the world. Glowing press, full-page spreads in national papers calling her the Rose of Windsor. She had just wrapped a campaign for homeless women, hugged children in shelters, cooked meals with volunteers. It was the kind of work that filled her heart, and for once, it felt like the public saw her not just as a duchess or a figurehead, but as a real woman, compassionate, kind, grounded. But that all shifted with one single headline. It started with a message William received late at night, a link, followed by a two-word subject line, "You'll want this." The article was vicious. It accused Kate of neglecting her children, chasing the spotlight while Camilla and Charles held down the monarchy with grace. And it wasn't just the headline, it was the photo. Kate smiling on stage, captured from a charity event weeks ago, now manipulated to look like it was taken that very day. The timestamp, the lighting, off by just enough to be damning if you weren't paying close attention. Kate stared at it for what felt like an hour. The shame that crept into her chest wasn't logical. She knew the truth. But the photo didn't care. The headline didn't care. Neither did the strangers already piling on in the comments. She's addicted to fame. She's using the kids as a PR shield. Another Diana wannabe. William was furious. Not the kind of explosive table-flipping rage the public might imagine, but cold, focused fury, the kind that burned slow and deep. He had seen this before. He'd seen what the media could do to a woman like his mother, and now it was happening again. But there was something even more calculated here. It wasn't just a random attack, it was patterned. The phrasing, the comparisons to Camilla, the way the article slipped in old doubts from years ago. This wasn't just clickbait, this was war. And someone was behind it. That night, after putting the kids to bed, William sat at his desk and called an old friend, a digital forensic analyst who had helped on security cases in the past. He didn't say much, just asked if a particular image could be analyzed quietly, deeply. The man agreed. Meanwhile, Camilla sat in her own quiet room at Clarence's house, her phone in hand, her face stony. She knew what she'd done. And she felt no remorse. For decades, she had tried to claw her way into royal favor, always a few steps behind Diana's ghost, always viewed through a cracked lens. Kate was the younger version of everything she had wanted to be, and worse, Kate hadn't even asked for it. Camilla had watched the public fall for Kate the way they had once fallen for Diana, and something inside her snapped. If she couldn't be adored, she would at least not be overshadowed, so she made a call, just one, to someone who owed her a favor. A well-placed tabloid editor, the same kind of person who once whispered lies about Diana and now bent the truth to attack Kate. But Camilla had no idea that this time, her scheme had left fingerprints. William was already following the trail, and he wasn't going to let it slip through his hands. The rain tapped softly against the palace windows as William stared at the forensic report in front of him. The image had been tampered with, expertly but not perfectly. 3 layers spliced together to form one seamless lie. Kate's face lifted from one event, the background from another, lighting enhanced to mimic a late evening when in reality she'd been home with the kids. And tucked deep in the image's metadata, a trace IP. Nothing definitive, but enough to begin connecting dots. The next move came quietly. William tasked a private investigator to dig deeper, not into Kate, not into the tabloids, but into the people behind the curtain. The byline on the original article belonged to a freelancer, someone known for gossip columns and royal exclusives. motives. But the deeper they dug, the clearer the connection became. That same writer had worked on several puff pieces about Camilla in recent years, and even more damning, 2 payments from a shell company linked to one of Camilla's former aides landed in the journalist's account within days of the article going live. William kept it to himself. He didn't tell Kate. She was already carrying too much, retreating further into her children's world to shield them from the whispers floating around their school corridors. Prashant had come home in tears. George had stopped answering his friends' messages. Louis didn't understand what was happening, but even he had started asking why the other kids said their mom was always gone. Kate tried to hide how much it broke her. She wore her smile like armor, but it cracked in the small moments. When folding laundry, when brushing Charlotte's hair, when Louis asked her to stay just a little longer before bed, it was a slow unraveling. And Camilla? She was already preparing her next strike. She knew William had grown suspicious. The way he looked at her during public appearances had changed. Cooler, more distant. She felt the temperature shift, and in her mind, that meant she had to act fast. So she did. She called a meeting with several senior members of the Royal Council, presenting them with fabricated reports, cherry-picked headline, public opinion polls designed to paint Kate as a liability. She insisted that the Duchess of Cambridge was drawing too much attention, that the monarchy needed stability, not celebrity. We cannot let one woman hijack the entire institution, she told them, her voice calm but firm. Some nodded, some hesitated, but the seed was planted. News of the meeting eventually made its way to Kate, whispered by a sympathetic staff member. She sat on the edge of her bed that night, staring at the wall, feeling like the palace she called home was slowly turning against her. All the charity work, the speeches, the effort, none of it seemed to matter anymore. Not in the face of rumors. William found her like that, knees pulled to her chest, face blank. He sat beside her without a word, just holding her hand. He knew they were running out of time. The final blow came when a letter arrived at Kensington in a plain white envelope, no return address. Inside was a blurry photo from Kate's college days, her with an ex-boyfriend at a student party. Innocent, yes, but paired with the typed threat on the bottom of the page, it felt anything but. Step back from public life, or the past becomes tomorrow's headlines. Kate's breath caught in her throat. It wasn't just about her anymore. Someone was watching them. Someone was willing to dig deep, to twist anything, to hurt her and her children. And William? He didn't just see a threat, he saw war. The room was silent, except for the soft click of the door closing behind Camilla. She stepped into the study, expecting another polite confrontation. Something behind closed doors, filled with veiled language and quiet disappointment. Instead, she was met with William's cold stare and a thick stack of documents neatly arranged on the desk in front of him. "Sit," he said, not a request. Camilla raised an eyebrow but obeyed. William didn't waste time. One by one, he laid out every piece. The doctored photo breakdown, the payment trail to the freelance journalist, the anonymous threats, call logs from a burner phone in her office to the tabloid editor. Her expression didn't shift. She had rehearsed denial. But then came the audio. William tapped play on his phone and her own voice filled the room. Scheming, bitter, desperate, outlining the plan to fabricate a story about his and Kate's marriage falling apart, naming the exact newspaper, the timing, the framing. It was all there. Camilla's jaw tensed. For a moment, she didn't speak. Then she leaned back, folded her hands, and tried to regain control. "You've made your point, but if you think dragging me through the mud won't drag this family down with me..." "I'm not dragging you anywhere," William interrupted. "You did that to yourself." He slid over a letter already signed by the Royal Council, stripping her of all public media authority within the family. Her influence was gone. She was done. She laughed, bitter and low. "You think this changes anything? You think the public will just forget what they've read about Kate?" William's expression didn't change. "They won't need to forget, because we're going to tell them the truth." Later that week, a carefully crafted statement from Buckingham Palace hit every major outlet. It didn't name names, But it didn't need to. It made clear that the smear campaign against the Duchess of Cambridge had been orchestrated internally, and that those responsible would no longer speak for or represent the crown. The shift was immediate. Papers that had once speculated on Kate's ambition now ran features praising her strength. Photographers captured her smiling again. Not the polite royal smile, but a real one, as she walked through the palace gardens with Charlotte and George. But William wasn't finished. He sent the full audio of Camilla's confession to The Independent, a paper with no royal ties, no fear of pressure. They ran it all: the call transcript, the timeline of attacks, the connections to Diana's old smear campaigns. The public response was overwhelming. Sympathy poured in for Kate. Politicians, celebrities, and citizens rallied behind her. Truth Matters trended for days. Camilla issued a public apology, stilted and cold. She claimed regret, claimed she had only been trying to protect the monarchy, but nobody bought it. She disappeared from the spotlight, retreating to Clarence House, her influence shattered. Kate, meanwhile, stepped forward. She launched a campaign called Truth Matters, aimed at educating the public about misinformation and its damage. She gave one televised interview, just one, where she spoke plainly about the pain of seeing her children suffer from lies. "I'm not perfect," she said, looking directly into the camera, "but I love my family, and no headline can ever erase that." The nation listened. They didn't just support her, they rallied around her. Kate became something more than a duchess. She became a symbol of resilience, a woman who didn't crumble under pressure, a mother who chose strength when the easy choice was silence. Months later, at a public festival outside Buckingham Palace, William and Kate stood on the balcony with their children, waving to a roaring crowd. Charlotte danced, George grinned, Louis tugged at his mother's sleeve and laughed. It wasn't just a photo op, it was a victory.